They fined me $50,000 for excessive Christmas lights until they found out I owned the electric company. The setup what I'm about to tell you will make your blood boil. But stick with me because the revenge at the end is absolutely nuclear, and you're going to love every second of it. If stories of entitled HOA bullies getting exactly what they deserve make you happy, smash that like button right now and let's dive in. I'm talking about a Christmas light display that turned into a $50,000 nightmare until one shocking revelation changed everything forever. Marcus Thompson seemed like your typical quiet suburban dad, living in Pinecrest Estates, one of those cookie-cutter developments where everyone drives gray sedans and keeps their lawns perfectly manicured. For 15 years, he'd been the model neighbor, polite waves, no drama, modest holiday decorations. What nobody knew was that Marcus had been hiding a secret so big it would eventually bring the entire HOA to their knees, begging for mercy. While his neighbors assumed he was just another middle management office worker, Marcus actually owned Rocky Mountain Power Solutions, the very company that kept every single light bulb glowing in their precious little development. The Christmas dream, everything changed the December that marked 5 years since his 8-year-old daughter Emma beat leukemia. Marcus decided this Christmas needed to be special, not just for Emma but for every child in the neighborhood who had watched her fight that battle. He spent months planning what would become the most spectacular Christmas display their suburban street had ever seen. Picture this: synchronized LED lights dancing perfectly to Christmas music, a winter wonderland with illuminated reindeer, cascading icicle lights that turned his house into a frosted palace, and crowning it all, a massive star on his roof that could be seen from 3 blocks away. The display was not only gorgeous but completely safe, because the man literally owned an electric company and knew exactly what he was doing. Word spread fast. Families drove from neighboring towns just to see Marcus's house. The local news featured it as a must-see holiday destination. Children pressed their faces against car windows, pointing and gasping with wonder. Emma stood in their front yard every evening, watching kids experience the same joy she felt. And for the first time since her diagnosis, Marcus saw his little girl's face light up brighter than any Christmas bulb. But there was one person who wasn't filled with holiday cheer, and her name was Karen Whitmore. Enter the villain, Karen Whitmore. HOA president and self-appointed neighborhood dictator, had ruled Pinecrest Estates with an iron fist for over a decade. This woman treated HOA covenants like sacred scripture and saw herself as the guardian of property values. Karen's own holiday display consisted of a single wreath that looked like it came from a gas station clearance rack. So when she saw Marcus's spectacular creation attracting visitors from across the city, jealousy consumed her like a green-eyed monster. 3 days after Marcus completed his display, Karen appeared at his door, flanked by 2 other board members, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Thompson," she announced with theatrical authority, "your excessive display is in direct violation of Section 14.3 of our homeowner's covenant regarding exterior decorations." Marcus politely explained that he'd carefully reviewed every rule. The covenant stated that decorations should be reasonable and in good taste, which his display absolutely was. But Karen wasn't interested in reason. "This gaudy monstrosity is creating traffic jams. You're turning our respectable neighborhood into some kind of commercial tourist attraction." The real truth was simpler. Karen couldn't stand that someone else was getting attention in her domain. The war begins when Marcus politely declined to dim his lights. Karen declared total war. She began issuing daily citations like she was running a money printing operation. $100 for excessive luminosity, $200 for traffic disruption, $300 for violating community aesthetic standards. Marcus paid every single fine without complaint, thinking surely this madness would burn itself out. He had no idea he was dealing with someone whose ego was so fragile that backing down would feel like admitting defeat. But paying the fines only encouraged Karen to get more creative with her persecution. She organized emergency HOA meetings, hired a lawyer to find obscure clauses, and even started taking photographs of his house at different times, creating evidence files like she was building a federal case. The nuclear option breaking point came when Karen discovered an old clause about commercial level displays on residential property. In twisted genius, she decided Marcus's synchronized lighting system constituted a business operation since it attracted visitors. Starting January 1st, she began issuing $1,000 daily fines, $1,000 every single day, for having Christmas lights. Within a month, Marcus owed $50,000 to his own HOA for the crime of spreading holiday joy. But Karen wasn't finished. She sent certified mail demanding immediate payment or foreclosure proceedings would begin. She was literally threatening to take away his family's house over Christmas decorations. Then, in a move that would seal her fate, Karen decided to make Marcus's humiliation as public as possible. The trap sets itself. Karen organized a special neighborhood meeting to shame Marcus in front of the entire community. She invited local media, promising them the story of a selfish homeowner who refused to follow community standards. The night before the meeting, a reporter called Marcus asking for his side. During their conversation, the reporter mentioned they'd be covering the impact on community utilities. That's when Marcus smiled for the first time in weeks, because Karen's thirst for public attention had just walked her straight into a trap she didn't even know existed. If you're loving this story of epic HOA karma, hit that subscribe button right now, because we're about to get to the part where everything explodes in the most beautiful way possible. The revelation: the community center was packed with over 200 residents plus news crews from 3 local stations. Karen stood at the podium delivering a theatrical performance, painting Marcus as a rogue neighbor who thought he was above the rules. She claimed his selfishness was tearing apart their community fabric. Marcus sat quietly in the back wearing his usual modest cardigan, looking every bit the mild-mannered engineer everyone believed him to be. When Karen finally asked if Marcus had anything to say, he stood up slowly and walked to the front. The crowd fell silent, expecting an apology. Instead, Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call everyone could hear perfectly. "Hi Janet, it's Marcus. Yes, I need you to prepare service discontinuation notices for the entire Pinecrest Estates development. The Homeowners Association has created a hostile business environment. Make it effective in 72 hours unless this harassment stops immediately." He paused, looking directly at Karen's increasingly pale face. "Oh, and Janet, send our legal team those recordings of the HOA president threatening foreclosure over safety-compliant electrical installations. The nuclear explosion. The realization hit the room like lightning. Marcus Thompson, the quiet neighbor they'd overlooked for 15 years, owned Rocky Mountain Power Solutions. He wasn't just some random homeowner they could bully. He was literally the man who kept their lights on, their heat running, their entire modern life functioning. Karen hadn't been harassing a neighbor. She'd been threatening the person who controlled their electricity. The room erupted in chaos. Karen stood frozen at the podium, looking like someone who'd just realized they'd been playing chess with a grandmaster while thinking it was checkers. Marcus addressed the crowd with quiet authority. For 15 years, I've kept your power reliable and affordable. All I wanted was to celebrate Christmas with my daughter who survived cancer. But apparently, spreading happiness makes me a criminal in your eyes. Sweet victory. Within 24 hours, every single fine was rescinded. Karen resigned in complete disgrace, unable to face the neighbors she'd embarrassed. The remaining board members begged Marcus not to cut their power. But Marcus's revenge wasn't over. He announced that the $50,000 he would have paid in illegal fines would instead be donated to the children's cancer ward where Emma had been treated. Today, Marcus's Christmas display is bigger and more spectacular than ever. The HOA voted unanimously to make his house the official holiday attraction. Karen moved away 3 months later, disappearing from the community she'd once ruled with an iron fist. As Marcus told me, sometimes people need reminding that kindness will always triumph over petty tyranny. It also helps when you control the electricity bill. If this story of HOA justice made your day, absolutely demolish that like button and subscribe for more tales of entitled neighbors getting exactly what they deserve. Drop a comment and let me know what you would have done in Marcus's situation. And remember, always be kind to your neighbors. You never know who might be keeping your lights on during the holidays.